Hey everybody, it's Mike Cristoforo and David Lamel here. We're going to be going live with you in a couple of minutes. As you're watching us now, I'm going to set up some cameras in the background. Bear with me for a couple of seconds, and we're going to do the intro to crypto.
Sounds great.
All right, hold on one second. Let me just get these cameras going back here. We're going to get over here live with our friends on. And there you are, Mike. We're live, and we're going to make sure we have privacy and make sure it's public. All right, and then we're going to make sure we have Instagram Live going live over here because Instagram is very exciting to hear about what's going on here as well. And we are now 3, 2, 1 going live on that as well. And saving, save, boom. All right.
Right.
Hey everybody, welcome to the intro to crypto with Michael Cristoforo and David Lamel here. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. It is Monday, our Monday and Friday sessions on intro to crypto. One of the biggest and most important things we want you to know about is, first of all, this is not financial advice, but it's going to be something that you should want to learn about and get involved in. Most people, as we always talk about, have this feeling about crypto or digital assets that they've heard something about it and it is too much for them to comprehend, or it's something they don't believe or trust in. And it's something we've learned that people can talk to us before and after. Thank you so much for being a part of this thing you're doing, because we want to learn about it, but it's always been overwhelming. And we want to make sure that you don't feel overwhelmed and too much going on. I want to make sure you understand the kind of concept of what crypto and what's happening behind the scenes around the world, right before your eyes, but you're not hearing about it. As we talk about all the time, crypto, only 5% of the world is involved in crypto, but it is going to ramp up tremendously. It's important that you know what's going on so you can be part of this next generation of how digital assets are happening in our lives.
Yep.
So this podcast is called All the World Money. And the reason for that is because it is all about XRP.
Today's going to be the XRP and Ripple conversation today. That's what we're talking about.
Ripple is XRP.
Ripple uses XRP.
Ripple uses XRP.
Yes.
So, Michael, we know that Ripple.
Real quick, I just want to add the
Yes.
reason why we're saying all the money is I've heard several men on the Ripple board, or not even the board necessarily, but working employees for them. And they all say they're arrogant enough because they're coming out of Silicon Valley. They're arrogant enough that they want all the world's money. So that's where we sort of got this name from, is because that's their goal.
All the world's money. It's important to know, to have a chance to be a part of that financial opportunity of all the world's money. So we have the Ripple XRP. A lot of things have happened since 2013 with Ripple, right? A lot of expansions of where they've gotten into and who's involved in it. A lot of people you would never know who are behind the scenes on Ripple. Let's first talk about our friend Brad Garlinghouse. If you can give a little background on Brad.
Yes, Brad is the CEO of Ripple. So one of the things that I really like about it is that we have a very front-leaning CEO who is very active in the world stage. So you're not dealing with somebody like we'll go to Bitcoin. We don't know who the founder of Bitcoin is. We don't have a CEO of Bitcoin. We don't have any of that kind of stuff. So one of the things that we like about Brad is the fact that Brad's
Front
and center, and he's on so many different councils and so many different things.
When the president had their council to talk about crypto, who was sitting right next to him? Brad Garlinghouse. And right?
Yeah, he was there.
Brad Garlinghouse is at every major crypto event around the world, from country to country and place to place.
Yep.
Go back into Brad, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So what did Brad do before he was involved in crypto?
We were just taking a look at that. I thought he was in PayPal, but I think he was in AOL and he was in some other one. But it has always been very much Silicon Valley and very much in up and coming industries, basically.
So in 2013, the Federal Reserve looked for a faster payment options. The Federal Payments Task Force was created. Ripple was the number one company, was number one in focusing on that. Is that right?
I think that's also tied to the ISO 20022, which is basically what we've been talking about on several of these podcasts, that we're just going to keep drilling it right into your brains. ISO 20022 is the messaging standard for basically everything going forward, and that's going to include the banking system this year. It's As a matter of fact, I think SWIFT this fall, I forget, I think it's in November. I think they're supposed to be fully compliant. So all the banks are supposed to be all running and using the ISO 20022.
Which is wild
Yes.
because we talked about the banks before and how slow the process system is for moving money and how much it costs. And for them to be implementing Ripple in the background to help replace and how the whole money's moved across the world.
Yep.
There are some things that you should know, but I'm going to read a couple of things as my eyes are down the computer. Please forgive me. So let's just see.
While you're looking that up, I just want to just add something real
Yes.
quick. You can keep looking, but we were talking about how Brad is at all these events. I was just taking a look. He's involved with the Bank of International Settlements. He's front and center. Davos. As much as we might think that Davos is the rich that are running the world and they meet once a year or whatever, Brad Garlinghouse is sitting on stage. So he's obviously instrumental for where the world is most likely going to be going. So do we want to run from that, or do we want to embrace it and be towards it? Because, I think every technology that's going to come out is going to have a potential for good and a potential for bad. I believe, in the good of things, but, some people may go the other way on that.
Absolutely.
So
we have over here, let's see. The Federal Payments Task Force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes Bill and Melinda Gates, who are now divorced. The Clinton Global Initiative. Whether you like the Clinton Foundation or not, this is not about that, but to know who's involved, how powerful this whole thing is. In the governments of 32 countries put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitalized Payments. 1 year later, Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company and their website, Ripple Today, Better Than Cash Alliance, and all other initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is pretty huge.
It's very, very huge. So, and just for the record, there's a lot of great information on, that Dave's reading off of a transcript.
Yes.
I would very much like if we could actually find a way to be able to do that, because it's a great video.
Yes.
That we can actually maybe put on, on somewhere here, so we can give him credit for whoever wrote
It
this.
says over here, why do I hold XRP on YouTube? And if you look that up, why do I hold XRP? And you watch this 2-minute video, you might be beside yourself as to see who's involved and what's involved. And we're going to try to take some bits and pieces of it.
That's great.
It is, let's see, the first ISO of as you mentioned, 222 or 200.22, member focused on distributed ledger technology, who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, right? American Express, PNC, Santander, HSBC. These are the biggest companies in the world.
Absolutely.
And they're all involved in Ripple and XRP.
100%. That's exactly where we're going with this.
Standard Chartered Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia. The largest banks in Japan, which we're already hearing about today, as Japan is taking over all their currency and turning it to Ripple.
Everything. Yoshi Katao, who is from the Bank of Japan, he's the president, CEO, whatever. He basically said that in 2025, all banks have to be running and using XRP. So Why? Because it's more efficient and it's they love it. And
It's the fact that it costs so little to use and transfer money. Now, this is the biggest thing about saving money across all platforms for the banks and for us, and having money being moved so quickly from bank to bank, transaction to transaction.
We'll do a show on that. If people have interest on that, we'll do a show of what the banking system is currently paying to move money on a yearly basis, and compare it if we did that same thing as an XRP ledger moving with XRP. It's night and day, huge savings of money for the banking system.
Billions of dollars.
And if they're moving that kind of money, it has to be a high price. They can either move, let's say if it's at $2 right now, let's just say you want to move $1 million, you got to have 500,000 of them to move $1 million. Well, if it's $1 million, you only need one. So ultimately, it's got to be a high price is basically what they've been saying, is that ultimately when adoption happens, that's what's going to
Canada,
happen.
Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America. Ripple, who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve. Overseeing the Federal Reserve largest assets manager of BlackRock's digital assets. BlackRock.
Yeah, let's just spend a moment. The head of the Treasury at America, I believe it's the Treasury, who signs the dollar bills. I keep saying this, but when I wanted to follow a company that's going to be moving the future, who would leave signing the money on the US dollar and move over to another company, and that next company happens to be Ripple, who's using XRP? That tells me that if it's good enough for Rosie Rios to turn around.
Rosie Rios, the one who signs the money.
The one that did sign the money.
Did sign the money, right?
If you find an old dollar bill, you'll see her name on it.
I don't think it has to be that old, actually.
Well, it's getting old now. I mean, 5 years ago, I used to find the dollar bills all the time, but they replace them so quick. They're using a lot of a newer gentleman. But if you find some older ones out there, you can see her name on it.
And Rosie Rios is now working with what company?
Ripple.
There are many other people from all different walks of life that are involved in Ripple. Do you have a couple of names you can help us out with over here?
Off the top of my head, I'm not going to give you names, but some of them are going to be people that were the attorneys that were working for the Treasury. They're now working for Ripple. It could be people at BlackRock, and it goes both ways. Sometimes are people working that were employees at Ripple, and they're now working at BlackRock. For example, sometimes they're BlackRock and they're now working at Ripple. So there's a lot of commingling of companies to be able to, share the wealth and the knowledge is basically the way I would expect.
I'm just looking here quickly to see about these people's names if it causes a little bit of excitement for us over here. Obviously, Brad Garlinghouse. I just saw a bunch of things up here. These look familiar to you. Have you heard these names?
Not to me personally. I mean, I just saw David Schwartz. He happens to be the chief technology officer, and he says right off the bat, Ripple's made for a very high price, and it's not made. I'm adding this part. It's not made for retail. We're retail, but we're not even supposed to own it. This is supposed to be something that's, for institutions and banks. It's really not something that we should own. That was the plan anyway.
Going into the whole idea of what Ripple is and XRP, and knowing what the cost of it is today in the low $2 range.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch and listen to a lot of the guys on YouTube that are involved in Ripple and XRP, I would recommend looking at maybe Mikkel, as you mentioned before, another guy named Crypto Sensei. You have Jake Claver, a very important piece of the action of there, very involved in Ripple XRP. These are people you're going to help you to learn about what's going on. Our job is to help get you to the ability to learn about this stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
again, if you've been watching or listening or heard people before talk about crypto, many people, listen, I'm 50 years old. If you came to me and said to me, let's talk about crypto 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I was already like, I'm not interested. That sounds like fake stuff or not real or it's a scam, and as I've learned over the last couple of years how real it is and how, listen, there are scammers out there and make sure not to get scammed, right? Don't go and get a text message from somebody that they're talking about crypto and giving you all your information. Don't do anything stupid like that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I've loved the fact that I've heard many people say that we're in the Wild West. We're in the Wild West because things were unregulated and it's all adopting as time goes on. But people probably said the same thing about the stock market 100 years ago. When the stock market was new and people were buying shares in this company or that company, whatever. And there's a point in a time that the adoption happens. And when the adoption happens, they're saying that right now, there's a lot of people that lose money in crypto with scams and so forth. I get it. I understand. You have to be careful. You have to watch your seed phrases. Every time we post a video, there's always somebody that comes out there that says, can you help me?
Okay,
Because it's seed phrases.
Let's first talk about that. In order to do a seed phrase, you have to have something like a wallet, right? You wouldn't
Yes,
just have a
yeah,
seed phrase. So
right.
A nano wallet would be something, as an example, that if you had crypto, you get a nano wallet and you take it off your exchange, your crypto, and you put it on this nano wallet. The nano wallet would then have, I think, 22 different words in an order of
Yeah.
X, Y, Z.
Yeah. That's enough to scare a lot of people right there, to be perfectly honest with you. I think a lot of people get turned off and scared. But where I want to go with this thing, what Dave said is correct. But we're probably about 24 months, 12 to 24 months out from where we won't even need seed phrases anymore. So, and then you're going to be able to go to your bank and you're going to be able to say, I have XRP or I have Algorand or I have XDC. Can you custody that for me? And you will be able to do that the same way you could with, your brokerage account where they're holding your Amazon or shares or your Microsoft or whatever. So don't be scared. Understand that we are still early, but what Dave's talking about with seed phrases is coming to an end. It's coming to an end. We're not going to have it. We're not going to have it forever.
We should
For sure.
put volume up on that.
Yeah,
It rings.
Yep.
Mike is a very popular guy. He's a mortgage broker and is doing a lot of business all day long. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day always and doing this together. Also, probably some of the people who are watching our show, they're reaching out to you, asking questions. But by the way, if you have questions about this is important. It's important for you to let us know. Send a message. Put a thumbs up. By the way, if you like what you're listening to and you're interested, please smash a like. Please share this podcast. Please share and advocate for other people to listen and learn about. If we're talking too fast, we're giving you too much information, if there's something you have a question about, let us know. We can dive deeper into that specific target of information.
Mm-hmm.
Before Michael just talked about this whole seed phrase. So right now, if you own something like crypto, you can basically put it on a separate nano wallet, and there's what they call a seed phrase. And long story short, you would never want to see that's your, I'll call it your security lock. And you never want to share that information with anybody. That's your own personal thing. But with the fact that you just mentioned in the next 24 months from now,
That's at most, probably be fast.
Okay. Things are happening so quickly that it's so important for you to understand where this is going and what short timelines. Some people said 10, 15, 20 years from now. Actually, no. It's right about around the corner. Things are all going to come and hit fruition. And if you don't get involved in it now, you'll be able to buy it later on. You're just going to pay a lot more money for the same thing you could have bought now. And everybody always says, I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have known, if someone would have told me. Well, someone is telling you to listen, to learn, and ask questions. If you don't know who the right people to ask questions to, feel free to ask us. If we don't know the answers, we'll get information for you. Our contact information should be on the screen for you to reach out to us. You can call us, you can text us, or just even on the Facebook or Instagram, or there's 8 different platforms we are located on. We are on LinkedIn over here. We're on
We check all the
Rumble.
messages, right?
Yeah,
check all
we
the
have the
messages.
ability to look at the messages. And if you don't hear it, reach out to us. We want to help you to learn about this stuff here. I sell real estate for a living. That's what I do. I'm a real estate agent. That's my full-time job. Michael Cristoforo is a mortgage broker. That is his full-time job. But on the side, we're talking and learning about things that we need to not only learn ourselves, but to help you out there educate. It's important for you to have maybe potentially financial freedom. Isn't that something we all always wanted? It was financial freedom, or a chance to actually get a piece of money, a collection of money to maybe help you buy that house you've always wanted. By putting just a little bit away now, that opportunity could be there. You could have a chance to now take a little bit of money that you'd spend on coffee every week and invest it in some things that are probably going to be very lucrative for you, and have a chance to have a real
You mentioned that a few weeks ago. I'd love to have people leave a comment and let us know who here is actually foregone a cup of coffee to buy some crypto, or looked at embracing it more. So I would love to have a little bit more feedback to know, like, what's, besides when people call us, I'd love to see.
I agree with you. You typically would have a job, and you have an opportunity with you maybe to get a 401k, you get profit sharing, or some kind of investment you're doing with your company, right? And there's some that are matching you. Think about the fact that you take a few bucks a week, and instead of putting it there, or while that's happening, you take a few bucks out of your change purse or your wallet or your cup holder in your car, and you save that money, and you go and you put it in the bank, and you say, I'm going to put this towards crypto. People tend to save change in like bins and jars and bottles, the big water bottles and jugs, and how fast it accumulates. If you take this money and you start investing it, we're not talking about taking your life savings or your earnings, but just get involved and learn about it is the first step.
Well, look at 6 months ago, XRP was 50 cents. You could have taken the 50 cents in your cup holder.
That's right.
And you could have bought it, and now that 50 cents is $2 just since November.
That's a 4x in 6 months on money you would have put in. But that money right now at $2.10 is going to go, let's say, to $10 and $20 and $30 and $100. And who knows how high it'll go up? We don't know.
We're not promising you anything. But
we're not prophets.
Yeah, no.
But we can tell you that you will make profits if you invest now
in the right ones.
We call it blue chip. Is that you say blue
chip cryptos.
Blue chip cryptos. Yes. Things that are going to have value because of what they're using, how they're working. Should we talk about any other cryptos today, or mention some blue chips they should take a peek at?
I mean, if you want something cheaper than the $2, I mean, certainly, there's still a handful of ones. The Algorand's. Algorand's very involved with helping Italy right now, setting up their currency, and it's working with many more than just one. But I mean, that's a big one. HBAR is another one, very, very big.
So Algorand letters would be what?
ALGO.
Say ALGO for Algorand. You just mentioned HBAR.
Yep.
Which is HBAR.
Yep.
XDC.
Yep.
XDC.
XLM. XLM is another one. Supposedly, when XRP was created, there was a gentleman that left XRP and went out and started his own crypto, pretty much matched it, very similar, and that is the XLM. So XLM is sort of like, we call that the silver, and we call the XRP the gold. The big difference is besides the fact that XLM burned half of their crypto, they had the same amount, it was 100 billion. They dropped it down to 50 billion. So besides that, it doesn't have the Brad Garlinghouse. That's the thing that I don't like.
Not just the Brad Garlinghouse, but it's
the whole thing, the whole company behind it.
There's every major gazillionaire behind XRP. And there's a reason why they're behind it. Because all the world money. right? What was that group of people that you mentioned that are nobody knows who they are, but they all get together?
Oh, that was in Davos. We already
Davos.
talked about Switzerland. Once a year they meet, and we were talking about in Davos. Brad Garlinghouse is there once a year. Good, bad, and different.
Did I hear, in Davos we trust today.
No, sir. But I like that. That's funny. That's good.
Yeah. So XRP is something you want to learn about. Get involved in the crypto world. Learn about it. Ask questions. You can Google questions, right? You can do Googling and finding out what that kind of stuff is.
Absolutely.
If you want to know what platforms will help you out with platforms that might be very valuable to you, we'll maybe get some links up for you to kind of use to find platforms. Again, ask questions. It's very important to do that.
If you like YouTube, you can find out anything today on YouTube. It's amazing. Most of my crypto journey has been learning videos on how to do things. So I have to sit there with my little wallet at the same time my video's playing, and I'm doing one to learn the other. It's just normal.
There's a guy named Cheeky Crypto. I think it's Cheeky something.
Never watched them.
Avi is another guy that you'll find over there. A lot of different guys have their own, let's say, things they like a lot, that they are involved in, that they believe in, and they're following. You'll learn about a different bunch of cryptos that are out there. But again, if you go to YouTube, I would agree with you 100%. It's a great place to learn about it. Keep your eye and look how many people are following these people. And if you look how many people, you're not talking about like 100 or 1,000, hundreds of thousands of people are following these people. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because of the information that they're sharing and education you're learning and ability to kind of really get behind education.
And this is all the stuff you will not hear on the news yet.
That's the part that kills me.
Yep.
You don't hear about this in the news because A, they don't want you to know. They really don't want you to know. And B, they don't want you to know. So if you want to know, you've got to do a little research, ask questions, get involved, start to put some money, a little bit of money on the side, and get involved in the crypto digital asset world. Hopefully this show has been good for you guys. We appreciate you being a part of our show every week. We've got TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Rumble, and we are on Spotify, and we're on, TikTok, what I mentioned, sorry, LinkedIn. We are on X. All these different platforms that we're posting. We're going to have little snippets of the shows also to kind of give you a little 30-second feeders from what we talked about today. If you like things, please, again, share what you're watching. Please like it. YouTube, please get involved. Follow our YouTube channel. Everything's free, and you can watch and learn.
Send us a comment. I want this more interactive. I'd love to see that it's not just us doing this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, definitely comment. We get the phone call comments more than the people mentioning comments, but comment below with questions, thoughts and feelings, whatever you're possibly thinking in your head, no matter how silly it might sound. It's worth it. It's worth it for us because we get to get the feedback from you. So we're going to end the show today. As you know, we do this on Mondays and Fridays for the crypto. On Tuesdays, we have our real estate podcast, which is great. We might even have a special podcast coming up later in the week. You've been asking for it, so we're doing it. So hopefully you're happy and enjoying it as well. We'll see you guys all Friday on the Intro to Crypto. Talk to you soon.